Welcome, Renaud, again in the CS. You're there since the first edition, so like a pillar from our reuse module for the CS. So welcome and thank you to be there.
Good morning. Thank you, Arnaud. It's true, I was involved in the first edition of the CAS to think and prepare this reuse week with a very a team of people that were amazing to me because they opened possibilities of addressing the pedagogical perspective of this kind of knowledge and this kind of experience and this kind of practice to your curriculum in ways that were almost not possible in traditional schools. So mostly the big part was to have the hands-on engagement with the site, and you had that yesterday. I think I don't know a lot about it yet, but I hope to know more this afternoon. But I want to emphasize the relevance of that work that you had the possibility to do yesterday by sharing things that echoes that in the work we've done over the last 15 years, or the works I've been part of. Also, Guillaume, Aber, and Arnaud invited me to take it from the art of reuse perspective rather than the professionalization of the practice, which are the two kind of axes of the work. They found the name, and I like it. So I come from, and I really mainly speak from the perspective of the work we did with Rotor since 2005, 2010, 2015 were pivotal moment. Rotor is two entities, one non-profit association that do research and some design and that kind of work, and Rotor Deconstruction that was set up as a spin-off cooperative company to do the deconstruction and being the missing link in professionalization of some practices. We are spotted as a circular economy or whatever. It's true. It's really the work we do. At the same time, we are not using that work so much or only part of a movement, but we have a deeper engagement with materials and the material flows in construction and industry. And I want to also share the dimension of materiality, hands-on thinking, but also the skepticism we have with people who address us. Because with this circular economy label, at the moment, we are on the good side, but at the same time, we still need to put into perspective what is asked to us. And actually, around 2019, 2020, I was invited to talk in a conference in London, the Architecture of Emergency, at the Barbican, and it was the poster. And we were very skeptical about this whole idea. So it was the big show, Barbican, big room. And actually, we came up and we introduced my talk, with the fact that we were not comfortable and we found that poster not inspiring, but that was a very inspiring poster of the moment. And actually what is here is reuse tiles that are being placed in multi-apartment publicly financed building. So it's kind of the impossible mission of today. They've gone through all the process. For the joke and for the insider thing that we can share here, they were themselves at the communication department not comfortable with the idea of the Barbican being flooded. So they changed my slides. And when I went on stage, they had changed the slide. It's another monument. It was not there that could be involved in this kind of perspective. Full surprise. It's just there is a communication committee that check your slides 1 hour before you go on stage. Why the poster is relevant is because those tiles, to exist on the poster, they need to be reclaimed. And that's the work. And actually, for these tiles to be reclaimed, it means that the decision to reclaim them was taken in that room, with the graffiti, the dust, and someone needed to feel and know, okay, under the dust there is something valuable, it's worth being done. Today, decision makings tend to happen at table. But at the table, it's very difficult. In the room, is a little bit of dust and a bit of engagement. It's not rocket science. Still, you spend money, you pay the guys, and you start to collect the materials, but you have something that you cannot reuse, actually. You have cement mortar that is glued to the edge and those kind of things. So you have to proceed. You bring them out, and actually, at Rotor, we developed a capacity to drop them in a soft acid. Basically, it's vinegar. It's bubble. It's acetic acid diluted. It's white vinegar. And you leave them, and it actually dissolves the cement. And because they are ceramic tiles that have been cooked, they don't dissolve with the cement. And then you can high pressure wash them. You can even recycle the water because it's not critical. And you start to have a product. When you start to have a product, then you can contemplate. And actually, you look, and there are references and there are elements that you can start to associate to the things that you've been done. And there is a culture that comes with this specific product. And actually, they've been ordered and they went through the whole documentation process, and they happen to be placed in apartment buildings in Western world. They also happen to be sometimes used with the full creativity and spectrum of things. So we've set that poster, and we associate it with the work of Opalis that I will bring at the end of the lecture. It's a network of an inventory of people who practice or trade reused materials. That's more inspiring to start the day and change the world than the flooding of the barbecue. In 2016, the Olympic Committee in Lausanne wanted to destroy, demolish their building. Some part of the building were only 7 years old, but they changed their mind. There was a flooding, so all the technical equipment had been changed 4 years before. It doesn't matter. They wanted to destroy everything. That was the new restaurant and conference room that was all new, very high-end Swiss quality architecture. So they knew that they were on the spotlight as the Olympic Committee, so they created the construction task force, and they invited the best people in the world. And so EPFL knew they said they need to call us. So we came to the table, and we were full of people were kind of signing in front of me the fact that there was no reuse, nothing was to be reused, there was no need for that, anything in Switzerland. Everything was very sure and precise and confident. I try to explain that it's a more slightly complex issue, and it's relative, it's not superficial. Literally, they asked me to try to formulate a sentence in less than 5 words, to be clear, because basically the meeting was already set up to finish in some ways. But I managed to explain that we need an language. Okay, just before, they said, okay, if you push, maybe in the main hall, the white marble could be relevant for reuse. Like heads of states came here. There is an allusion to the wings. The wings are so precious, you cannot even draw them with a pencil. There is a trademark on everything. It's not the wings themselves, but that we could give. They were on that level of conversation. They said, okay, maybe the Salle Baron de Coubertin is where we make the decision which city will host the Olympic game. Maybe this room is precious. Actually, it's typical junk space from the 90s and just a refresh 10 years ago. There is not much there. But okay, we said we just need to commit to the materiality like you did yesterday. We need a team and we need 1 week. And then we will have a story and we have something to tell about materials. Before, I cannot say nothing. I cannot tell you this. I need to touch, I need to test. It's a depth of element to be taken into account. So we set up a workshop with EPFL students. So we had a team locally based to work 1 week on the thing. We put our base camp in the Baron de Coubertin room. So we were happy to have us there, and we started the workshop. Actually, the marble is fixed to the wall in 3 different ways. On the lift, it's separated and it's fixed with the metal rods. So you can go behind, cut it, and remove. On other walls, it's glued directly on the concrete. You break it if you move it. And most of the part, it's actually glued with an epoxy resin on Klestra partition wall system. So there is no way to do anything with it. It's pure junk composite materials. Also, students found that it's actually not real marble. It's a Brazilian stone that costs 40 francs per square meter. But we did the work. We proved the case. On the opposite side, they said there is nothing to be reused. But we noticed that all the toilets had been changed. And they were quite nice. I come from a foreign country, so already the Laufen design is a bit sexy to me, and I think there is something to do about it. So we recognize that there is a brand, there is a model, there is the reference. It's a very commonly good quality component. So the students did the demand. I don't know which kind of demand we did yesterday. And actually, mid of the week, we set up an exhibition in the Lausanne Forum. We had by some phone call access to the space so that we could display the collection of materials that are available to be reused from the IOC. So kind of proving the case that there was something instead of nothing at the deconstruction task force. And actually, we did the work, so we made an inventory of what we found. So like the reinforced carbon marble that was designed by EPFL for 30 years ago. It's super nice, so it's just easy to move. So we have a quantity and we can put them on the market to be circulated or given. And so on, the wash basin and all this collection of things. And the students engage also in looking for output. So they started to make a list of all people that they could contact and that could be interested in collecting things, at least for free or for this kind of just organized exchange. That was impressive. It was beyond our expectation on the teaching side. We were just about like assessing materials needs, this kind of engagement and competence. And actually, they found Promaison. They also found Materiuum, which is where I'm working at the moment. It's a kind of friends company association that is based in Geneva, that is already 12 years old, and that echoes the work that I did at Rotor. So since I'm based in Geneva now, I joined them. And actually, the guy from Promaison came, he's based in Lausanne, and they have a company that actually collects materials and bring it to renovation team of maybe social housing or basically refurbishment between tenants in apartments. You need to make some fixture. You don't have a full design project. You can take whatever works, you put it. And so there is a circle of ways to use materials in Lausanne as in everywhere in the world. That is not the same as the image we have of visibility of the Switzerland ideal. And actually, I went there a bit later, and the wash basin from the IOC were on sale, and they were still valued at 180 francs per item. So it was just needed. It just needed to be done. So yeah, that was about the answer close to what you did, I hope, or I will know. And about assessing the materials, you cannot do at the decision table. Now, I want to bring that this hands-on perspective and engagement with the material dimension of the field of the world brings some kind of creativity or some kind of capacity that I think are only coming or possible from that approach. And actually, I will start to talk about creative projects that Rotor did. They are not even focused on reused materials, but more about this mindset of hands-on thinking from new hands. And I will start with one that is maybe very far from the usual. I've not presented for 5 years now, but it's D'Aquasu et Tutauna Traposa. From up there, it's a whole other story. And actually, we've been invited in 2018 to work in Palermo during the Manifesta 12 Art Biennale. And Ippolito Pestellini, as a curator, he was a partner at OMA at the time, went there, and there is a natural reserve at the periphery of Palermo that was built by the mafia somehow. And it's a poster child of mafia real estate. But actually, in 4 years' time, it was cancelled, so it was abandoned. And for 30 years, you have this hill of shame in Palermo. And he came to us, he said, I went there, I thought about you in the context of this Art Biennale program. I don't tell you what was my ideas. I have the decency to leave that to you, but just please engage with the site. And we went there. And actually, as you see, it's the pizza cellar, it's the poster child of the dramatic thing. So we started, like when you see it from the bottom, it's very dramatic and ugly. We started to go there. It was introduced from Brussels, and we look on the Google map, and you see this is the city, the natural reserve, and it was for some years urbanized and then returned as a natural reserve. Since it's a natural reserve, and things need to be demolished. You know, the building have been seized, and they need to be demolished. But the city of Palermo has no money. So for 30 years, that's the way it was introduced to us. For 30 years, we have a judgment that we capture the property, we need to demolish. So on the budget of the city, at the beginning of the year, what do we need to do this year, blah, 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 demolish pizza cellar. But at the end of the year, there is the list of what we did. There is a new bus line, there is this. What we did not do, demolish pizza cellar. And actually, there is so much need there that for the next 20 years at least, they will not spend the money on demolishing pizza cellar. So it's that ambiguity of the site. First day, we entered the site with the kind of creative collectives that did like the graphs in the building, etc., from the site. The second day, we entered by the main entrance. So little precision to help follow. There is 150 villas, and like 50 of them, they've been properly acquired by the family who own them, so they keep living in it. The other ones, they were legally corrupted, so it was. So you have this kind of hill of shame with 50 inhabitants that are in a gated community, happy to have the beautiful villa and the view, but at the same time being regarded as the evil from everybody. So there is a very high tension. But since we were like officially there, we entered the site through the road that goes in the thing, past the gated community. And when we arrived on top, we were inspired to climb to the summit because the rock and the natural reserve was super beautiful. And we went on top. We did, yeah. We went on top, and it will come later. I'm sorry, but we looked at starting to understand carefully the planning, who is who, where is what. We started to talk and be friends with the guys of the gated community that everybody hates. They are supposed to be the ugly guys from the mafia. And we started to understand that from here, like in the movie, when you see the evil guys from the bottom, is very dramatic. From here, it's impossible to have a conversation about the subject, and no one can go. But when we are on top, like I just mentioned, you start to have a very beautiful place. The progression through the path, the natural path, is very interesting. It's a progress that makes sense. It's also like hiking, you have this time. The existing building framed interesting views. you don't see them only as the mafia product. You see the full city. From here, you can see the Aeolian Island, which are 140 kilometers away. It's not often in this world that we can see something 140 kilometers away. And most importantly, with a serene position above the housing development, the problematic is completely dwarfed by the landscape. So from being there on top, you don't have the same conversation. The landscape take over, and the conversation about this dramatic villa from the top, it's that. So our design project, literally, really, it's what it became, was not to build something, but to take into account this understanding of the materiality of the site in every dimension. So we decided that for Manifesta, we will not build something, not use reused material, but we would make a hiking path that goes around. Yes. We would, sorry, it's a bit slow. So we would remove that from the equation. We will stop calling it Pizzocella, but we will call it Monte Gallo, which is the name of the natural reserve, not of the dramatic development. And the project would be a hiking map and a hiking path that brings people from the city around the Pizzocella, going up a little stop and bring them to the top, so that they could experience the same thing as us, that we have the conversation from the top and not from the bottom. Where it echoes the thing, so that's a conversation from the top, and it's a little bit different from the bottom. But where it echoes the work that happened probably yesterday, is that you are not efficient in the argument or in the time consuming when you do the deconstruction, but also when you walk 3 hours to reach that moment where the conversation can be reversed, you don't have this kind of efficiency. It's the hiking time. So after 20 minutes, you will be tired of speaking about the mafia thing. And if you still walk for 2 more hours, you're going to start to have more and different creative conversation. And once you are at the top, if you have a conversation on that, you only see that. It's much less dramatic than the evil view and the ugly eyes. And your mindset has changed. And so that's where the hands-on time has proved in our practice to really change the possibilities of what we do. And that experience gave us confidence in saying that we are producing something by consuming time into changing the perspective of material. So the work literally was to walk the path very often, follow the step of the animals so that you know where there is no big rocks, because the pigs use a path, and build the hike in the path. So it started to become a path, and people could come. Of course, we like to touch buildings close to the top. It's the little story, but there was a building that was a bit nice. There was a scaffolding, and we suggest that we can remove the scaffolding. And so we set up a workshop, an invitational workshop for participants to join us there and work 1 week on the thing to see what you can do in 1 week. So we met new friends. We gathered in one building, we removed the scaffolding, we built a bridge so people could go and have the framed view that was nice. So it happened, and we used the scaffolding steel element to make some fencing, not like regulated public accessibility fencing, but staying 1.50 meters away from the edge. You already have that distance that makes the safety, and also that was not the project. The project was to make access, so we need to rebuild the road to that level so that an ambulance or whatever could join the place. So a lot of work was like prisoner breaking blocks and filling the road. We started, of course, this is the little stories. It's not circular economy important stories. There was the one before. But we found marble in another room, so we collected it so that we could make nice edge. And officially, because, like I said, there is a kind of skepticism to what is asked, but officially the project became this one. So on the contract, we only contracted that. It was a bench on the Belvedere when you can have the reverse view of everything, and the bench was given a view on the house. It just happened that to get our mindset inspired, we touched that, but that was our gym. We were professional and insured, we could go inside. But the public project is that one, on the contract is that, the art piece is that. The people can come, and there was a closed thing when the show was on. But of course, people went inside and they got the film. And that was this kind of physical part of the project. I have the feeling you got the multifaceted of the project. And I wanted to share that. I've been a bit too long, but that's okay, we'll see. Now I will flow in the direction of reuse and professionalization of this practice. This one is still not using materials. Backend. This is a public infrastructure in Ghent, it's a city in Belgium. It's a longer canal. It used to be a container for sand and grind to make concrete. That boat would be a load, and then you load the trucks. And some designers and architects were winning a competition to turn it into a public space. And they came with the proposition to paint everything white with a new fresh, new beginning, and make openings so that it's accessible. And they called us saying, can you be the first artist or creative people to do something in the space? And we have a 15-year-old budget to do something. And we had the feeling they wanted us to bring something here, to bring some reused material, so it will not be guilty and all will be good. And we were like, super, do we play that? Is this what we do of our life? Does it make sense? But we looked on Google View, and actually the site was that. There was water there. That would be kind of intriguing. And we went there. And actually, after we were turning around and just explaining, it happens that at Rotor we have a kind of genuine interdisciplinarity by the fact that we are a team of people who are just available and engaged for the material flow in industry, but with different backgrounds, because there is no speciality for the work we do. So if you have a friend that is wise and smart and that is available, you engage him on the work, and then, so we have a team of very different people. And one of the colleagues is a biologist, and then he went and said, Tristan, Renaud, come. If you give me a moment, I will tell you when the first Chinese boat came here. I said, he said, no, because this weekend, I know it, it's this bacteria from China with this mushroom, and they grow this speed, so I can calculate, and it means that the bacteria was there, and before it was not there, etc. We were like, wow, this is so much nicer than bringing a truckload of reused material. In the end, he found the name of every weekend on the concrete, so you have all the names, it was in the exhibition. He also brought the story of this little plant in the concrete that the designer wanted to wash out to have it white and design. It's actually the plant that at the same time was promoted in a booklet to use as a green roof plantation for the buildings. So you have a kind of communication about you need to put these plants on your buildings, but here you have it and it's better to wash it, to paint white. We started to have a project. So we said we will only build things that forbid you to paint and wash, because you need to high pressure wash before painting your old concrete, to protect what is there. So, in that one, that was very interesting because it was flooded. The corrosion was going up, the corrosion of steel when it's closer to the steel. So you had rust but floating. And here you had like the line of the several days they poured the concrete at the time. So that was the room on that. And we proposed to make an exhibition of what is already there. So we make it seriously. So we have a very descriptive explanation of what happened there. And we created this kind of space out of curating what is there. Of course, the graffiti was a subject, the concrete story was there. It allowed us to have this lady being very interested suddenly about the brands of spray can that the guys use in the thing. And of course, the plant was saved, and the story of the green roof, the promotion of this plant was mentioned there. So that was it. That was. again, I believe that the thinking of that project and the confidence in taking the project around what is expected from us come from this material engagement. It cannot come from you decide that it will be cool to work on that on the project. It just happened by arming yourself with interdisciplinarity, collective thinking, collective capacity, dialectic to test, and then it's not rocket science. I take another project. It's also an interesting mechanism of working, so I also reveal that because you are engaged in professional work. The requests are also sometimes a bit constraining. Basically, we were called by a big engineering company that got the contract as a design and build to make a parking lot here. That site is actually, you can see, yeah, it's actually next to the biggest event hall we have in Belgium, it's Sport Palace in Antwerp, and they are building a new parking. So for the next 9 years, they needed a big parking as a temporary use. And they received this space from the train infrastructure to make the parking for big events to happen. And they contacted us and said, can you do the 1% of artistic contribution to the project? Okay, and the guys in the team, they are not the boss, they kind of push for us. They were genuinely curious about who we are and what we do. So they were kind of giving us some freedom and said, can you do the 1%? And we said, okay, we will do a painting at the entrance of the site that says that it's a nice project. But how can we paint that it's a nice project if it's not a nice project? So the process to make the painting will be to be at the meetings with you and influence your work so that at the end we can do a painting. Okay. So we were paid to a very basic painting on a kind of Illustrator paints. But we went on the site and it's quite big. There are different composition of materials. I'm a bit lost with this now. There were some elements. One feature is that it's 1 kilometer long. You don't have that often in the city, 1 kilometer in one piece. You have it in Berlin with the temple of like bigger, but so we started to understand what are the qualities that we have applied this time. And actually, when you work with this design and build engineering company, that's the plan and the materiality they have. And so that's how it's developed. Okay, actually, the truth is not. They never bring the image, they work with this one. Everything is designed and calculated and then test and come with that. So you are the meeting start. To be honest, they have a plan. It's this one, full of trees, but in 9 years, there will never be trees. So it's a kind of illusion plan. But we were there to work with them. So we engaged in their game. So we said, let's first look. We have a parking. Can we have a conversation about this in a dynamic perspective? Because not every day Madonna is coming in town and you need to feel it. Some days are just the people working in the building and they will just park on this area. And you've put that much space of parking in your project. Let's play your game. Actually, you lost 14 places here. And actually, in this area, we can still put more place. But in exchange, we want to have a maybe differentiated conversation for this area. Actually, so that we can start to have maybe a schematic idea of the space, not only as a parking, but as a schematic of something else that is a park and accessible for the population that are surrounding the site. Also, there was only those trees on the site. But they explained that in the schematic plans, it's exactly where they need to make the road. So the trees will So okay, we need to get ready for the next meeting and work again. So we need to make the calculation that they need 20-meter radius to turn around something with a boat, so that we can save the only tree that will ever be in the project. Okay. Next step. Actually, there is a map that describes all the materialities of the site. They just wanted to remove everything and do the concrete blocks. But we said, can we look carefully about the different quality? And if we highlight the high quality materials, then we start to have a focus. And if we bring the dynamic perspective into the story, we will not bother you with this quality material, but can we talk about these materials that have qualities but are not in the highly used space? Okay, can we do project about that? Okay. And actually, we suggested that they could add playing field in the project by just creating a system of fencing that doesn't make a random car to park exactly that no one can place. And you only open the fence when you need to fill it with car. But by default, you protect the area because it's already there, that the quality of the site are there. So, okay, we start to have a project. That's our painting being prepared. We also mentioned that here there was a social housing complex or estate. And there are kids that are small. They need to go out in the park, even if Madonna comes in town. So we ask, can we make a hill that they don't see the cars and they have a pit where they can play any day? No compromise, no playing with the cars all the time. Okay, they agreed, so we captured that part of the project to be something. And so it started to be a painting that we could display at the entrance of the site. And then we can add the hypothetical trees if they want, we can do that. And actually it happened, they did it, the playground is there, they kept this in a different treatment so that car can park, but it can be a park, the field has been there. And so the painting was there, full of life, and that was the commissioned work that we had. It happened, it became something, it became nice to be used. It was mostly done out of nothing, out of what is already there, but arguing and the playground for the kids. Of course, the 1 kilometer line was made into something special, and you have it. The trees have been made into the project. And actually, the little reuse element, they were collecting these materials. It was impossible to put in the Excel sheet any reuse, it was forbidden for the project. But actually, it was just there, and we happened to be on site that day. She said, can you not drop them on the side in this kind of landscaping way? So the guys, they did. It wasn't, no one goes against common sense. So it happened. And actually, I have a photo. It's not here. When it's green, it's so beautiful. It's reused landscaping. Okay. I keep going to next stories. Okay. I don't know the timing either. Totally okay. Still got 20 minutes. It's a bit a similar story, but it gets us closer to the reuse profession. So I take it also. And it's still kind of creative periphery of architectural and urbanism projects. Okay, you agree? You go with me on that. So it's again a workshop. We took the platform. It's in Vienna. In Vienna, Nordbahnhof. There was also around 2018, 2019, a huge urban development. It was about to transform a wide area into a new city, like you know this, like they did in your project, but from nothing. And actually, the people in charge of urban planning, there were people living nearby, and they really loved the site because it was wide next to the train station, and they call it wilderness, and they really enjoy the quality of the terrain vague, this kind of place in the city. And actually, they won the competition, suggesting to have high-rise, which is not often in Vienna, but in exchange for the densification, to keep a large area as a wide in the drawing, and they won. So it was going to happen. The thing that started to happen is that the city management said, but we have park management that need to be in charge of every open public space in the city, and they don't know how to manage a wide area. They need a trash bin every so many meters, they need bench, they need to clean it every 4 days, etc., etc. They don't want to manage your proposition, so they try to turn it into a forest, because in a forest you don't have the requirement for those management. So if it was a forest, you could manage, there is with someone fall, it's okay, it's a forest. But in the federal law, it was forbidden to have forest in cities. If you have cities, you have to remove it from forests. So they struggled, and then they managed to create a new entity of this wide thing, but they knew that they were like the target of this park usual city management process. So they called us for a 2 weeks workshop. They called us for professional contribution, and they gave us 2 weeks of students from the social design art school in Vienna, which is a very nice school, the Angewandts. And they said, can you work? But basically they said, can you help us to reveal in very high fashion the qualities of what is there in the wild, that we can say it's relevant to keep it? Like, can you value the materiality of these things that are so precious to us? So we can do, there was a little skate park that was self-built by people in the neighborhood. So we start to clean it, so that it's revealed as nice. And we can highlight why they lose when they destroy it. So second thing, there was a little bridge in the park that was actually from 1838, painted in Viennese green, and it was like the first bridge built when they started showing things. There was a light story of the project. Okay, you lose that when you go against it. And okay, it's not safe, but maybe the fence that you put, you could turn them and make it a pedestrian path and just reinforce the need for a pedestrian and make use of it. Okay, you lose that. Or there was some access in the site, and we could clean it and trim it in ways that you see those places are nice. Okay, the skate park, and that was the thing. Interestingly, also, once we spent time in the space, we discovered that there was a biotope and things like there was a pond that was made by the inhabitant for lizards. There was plenty of lizards, and there was also ants keeper. There were several colonies of ants that were maintained by people like very regularly. So you also lose that. Okay. But actually, I mean, that's where we gather gas, regenerative materials, real estate. We were working there, but the elephant in the room was all of this. We know exactly what they do. The new urbanism, they are the guys who do 0% of leaves. And they are like the big project. We are speaking about saving a few bricks, and the bricks, they are all nice. I will love them. The elephant in the room is just there. So why do you ask us to work here? We need to work there. So we flipped that's what they built. You know, and that's the wide, and that's the new place. If you want to work there. So we turned the workshop into 2 teams. Some were working on site, and some others were using 2 cars and going every day outside of the city to meet companies who could source reuse material for this kind of projects. So we went to traders of materials that are not new, and they exist. They are hidden, they are small companies, we come to that, but they exist. So we went to Antique Stein, we went to Alt Baustoff, we saw a guy who was specialized in selling bricks, we have the companies who trade reuse cobblestone, reuse ties, all that is surrounding Geneva, Vienna, sometimes quite far, but we could do it day by day. It's a very good company, it's a specialty of those guys, they can do that, and they develop use case for that are convincing. So we did that background work, but on the site, we decided that our project will become to draw the urban planning line in real life, one-to-one, to reveal this ambiguity of these 2 questions. What you would lose, but what we can find for you for a new urbanism and a new movement. So we painted the line all around the site. Very easily, we cut the site that is to be demolished for new development. but this one is precious. You could suddenly have this view, but this is not precious, but this way is precious, and we need to reveal that you lose that. But at the same time, here nothing is made to find something. So the project became that, exactly, and revealing what is lost and found all around the site, like this, with the point. And it was leading to a pavilion where we made an exhibition about what you are losing, lost, but what we found that could come into the new urbanism on the other side of the line. So basically work to not lose that and take what we found, and then you are a new world. And so we had posters with every families of materials that you can find on the market, and each time at least 3 companies that do it, so twice or two, so that you can really say it's really possible as of today. And the sample taken, and of course, we made them all in BIM so that they could not even say it's a different world. No, it was their world, we spoke their language. And that was the story of that project. Okay. So now I want to speak about, like Rotor, around 2009, even before we started, parallel to doing the creative works, we understood that reusing material or not discarding everything was relevant. And there was plenty of conceptual ideas or academic research, but there was also those people really doing it, like we just saw in this project. And we had the feeling that they have an expertise that goes beyond thinking about the truth. So we started from 2010 to develop Opalis. It's an anagram of Spolia, and it's a website, opalis.eu, that is just an inventory of all the companies who trade materials that are not new, so that are reused material literally in the real world, in the real economy. And it happens around the city. We started with Belgium. We went to visit those companies. For each, we made a little description or like resume. And for each, we went to visit them and we share. Of course, you don't have a streamlined project that is always the same. So what we could share is good quality photo of the facility so that you can maybe speculate on the capacity, what kind of things they have, what they have, what. And there are different typologies of company. Normally, I can give a class about that, but we will just take one slide of the class. So, age of the products. Most company will be close to antique for common sense, good reason, but some trade contemporary products. Some company will be sole traders, very small. We are a bit about, there are 15, more than 20 people, there are not many. So we are speaking about small, medium, small companies. The preparation of building materials, you have very light preparation, like demolition companies that just collect materials so that they can give it away or sell it on the side. And then heavy cleaning, technical documentation, like the old wood that turn it into sophisticated wood floor. They are like, and we are a bit in the middle with the common thing. There is various typology. You will have the slide you can read. So there are companies who do careful dismantling. There are companies that do lightweight treatment of materials in elements. That's highlighted here. And they do the storage and keeping to adjust to the market demand. Just to give an example, Frank is a company in Belgium specialized in bricks. That's their facility. And actually, this is a reclamation of bricks 4 years ago in Western Europe, in Belgium, in Brussels, actually. That's how it's happening. And they deliver the capacity of 1 house every day. We use brick. Mostly used on old-fashioned house, but also in contemporary projects. And another one, it's antique bow. You see this kind of antique junkyard collection of material. It happened that when Philippe Samin won the competition for the Europa Council Parliament in Brussels, he wanted to do a facade made of reused windows coming from all around the place, Europe in theory. The company who did that is Antique Bow. There is not like a reuse professional, nicely designed company who does that. The best to do that was to contact them, build up the thing with them. With the investment, they could scale up a little bit. And today you have on their website the advertisement of a very sophisticated facade that is the facade of the European Council. That's interesting to land down to earth, which is to know that. On the Paris website, you will also see a catalog of reference. So it's projects that achieve to have reused components in their project, and so you have the links with what is there. We started with Belgium as inside of project, and in the last 4 years, we've been able to European grants, research grant Interreg with several partners to cover UK, Netherlands, and part of France with more than 1,500 companies that have been visited. What we love about this is that they are not IDs, they are companies, so they are economic actors. So they fit the full equation of our economy. They don't trade everything. They are about 1% of materials that are reused through this kind of channel in our society. But at least what they do is checked by all the criteria of economy. So it's a starting point, like you did yesterday, starting from something not speculative. And actually, they have their hands on engaged to be these experts. And to the work we do, a bit as facilitator, they are the experts. They are our contact and our experts and our friends. Or even though they are very strange people sometimes. You have far-right people living on the countryside with very strong opinion that don't go with the work we do. Some would never accept that to speak about sustainability or whatever. Say, no, we don't sell those kind of things. We sell old materials precious. But we don't mind. We want things to be recirculated, reused, and we want to build up your expertise. So we know where is the focus, and so we have reason to get acquainted. 52, we can still finish. At Rotor, doing this kind of work, but also the Opalis work, around 2015, there was sustainability manager in every big companies, and they needed to do something about the right thing in real estate. So they started to contact us to say, okay, you are the architect that we are in architecture, and it seems to be what we have is this kind of building, and they are the heritage, but we demolish them every day very fast, and we produce a lot of waste, and we sort nothing. You all know the thing. And actually, they engage with us because we could speak their language, and they explain that for commercial office space, the practice in Western world is to take it raw in concrete casco, and then you put your own interior because you want your corporate identity to be in control. And then when you scale up or you move, you need to remove everything so that the next person can come. And the occupation, like 25%, is less than 3 years. Like most of the thing is less than 9 years. So when this practice happens, it means that you have flexible design for deconstruction materials that are used for between 3 to 9 years that are put in the container very fast. And because the price of the rent is so high, they just need to be fast. And that's what happens around us. And they said, okay, we have this building. It was built 9 years ago. It was the headquarters of Levis in Belgium. We will remove everything inside before the next guy comes. Can you do something? It's okay, we have no choice. We have to go with this. But what is reusable when you engage like yourself in an economic term in this world? It's demountable cannot be the definition of reusable, otherwise you collapse. So we needed to apply reusable will be when the cost of dismantling plus handling multiplied by a risk factor is less than market value. If this equation is fit, you can engage. There is no reason to not do it. You just need to have the capacity, the willingness, the opportunity to talk with the good actors, and the capacity to reassure them that it will be done professionally. So we entered the building, and we started to collect this wood frame partition system that were nice. We gathered the material. There was a false ceiling made of metal grit, very easy to demount, and there are resellers that trade this kind of material. We did an inventory of what's in the building to share with creative and contracting people in our network, so that maybe some would be interested in and grab some opportunities. And for the first time, our job was to call trucks and load trucks full of materials. It's a bit impressive, but okay. For the joke, at Rotor, we bought a small one of this forklift before we bought a printer. Our capacity to work was more enhanced with this, because loading and unload, at least we could unload the trucks when they arrived. And actually what happened, it was a big revelation. Before 2014, all the work Rotor has done in doing creative interior settings and exhibition space, cultural space, and being published and received some gratification and spotlights, and even your colleagues knew me enough that they invited me here for a student hidden lecture in the building. Basically, the work we did was 24 tons of material saved. We were all good, proud and happy to be noted for that. But actually there, with the thing I just showed, in 3 weeks, we had saved 30 tons of materials. And so you are faced with this idea, do you do 20 tons in 9 years, or do you do 30 tons in 3 weeks? We had no choice to shift all our energy and focus, even though we would not remove the capacity because they are slightly different, but we need to commit to the 30 tons every 3 weeks. So we did, and that's when Rotor deconstruction started. And to share the thing, that was the second building we did. It was General Electric in Brussels. And we did a kind of conservative CO2 estimation. So we worked to quantities, we led the conversion. This is a kind of polemical thing, so we did not highlight it. But with some conservative view, the 3 weeks saving 25 tons of materials is the equivalent of 9 rounds around the world in a car. That was saved in those 3 weeks. It's also 70 square meters of photovoltaic panel over 25 years. So in 3 years, we had the same impact that all the noise this developer was making about their promotion of their headquarters with photovoltaic thing. They understood that. Befimo is one of the leaders in Belgium, and they started to publish sustainability following the collaboration between Befimo and Rotor. That was another building, 10 tons of building material. And we were very happy to note that, kind of emphasize what I just said, they are listed on the stock market, this company. So they need to do an annual report. In the annual report, there is an environmental achievement. And it happened that the gray energy benefits out of the work they did with us or similar actors when they can find some was coming before the photovoltaic effort from the portfolio. So they understood that it was relevant and there is a topic here. And so we created Rotor Deconstruction and we kept doing that. And we have a showroom that's trade the materials that we can collect and they have value enough. And there is a shop online. And now there is kind of 15 to 20 people selling and trading these materials every day.
And can I ask, the price is still less than the market price? Or
yeah, if it's sold here, it starts to be a bit of a luxury because there is a niche, so you are able to finance activities by trading materials that some people buy. So they start to be too expensive for me. But there are still good opportunities on some batch. And it's still a struggle to manage all the cost of having a shop in the city because we want to have the subject to come to stock to all material in the city, which is it wise or not? Should they be in the city? And a highly skilled team working on that. All this is kind of still pilot transition project. Still, it's happening. For me, it's 10 years old now. And I think it will be the conclusion. Soon after we did those few buildings, we were invited to work on this one. It was the headquarters of a bank in Brussels, very big, nice building. And you have very nice interiors designed by Jules Wobs. It's a known designer interior. You have granite with patterns, precious wood. On the ground floor, you have this very nice false ceiling that hide the lightings. And so you want to engage in the bigger operation of reclaiming. That's where when we rented a warehouse, because the material were rich enough to be collected and gathered and waiting for some time. But actually, when you go into that building, it's 6 floors below the ground. It goes below the water level of the city. and there is a metro line going through the basement. So if you do something stupid in the building, before you know, the metro process is flooded, and it's your guilt. So it's not just about going and take what you want. Basically, to organize the operation, there is a kind of reverse engineering. That's the plan you need to use. Basically, it's the same plan as the project development. That's on which one you work. And you have to be aware of the capacity of a building, because the beautiful granite stone that you find, you can put them on a pallet and you pile them, but it suddenly becomes very heavy. And then you roll with the transpallet, you go. But actually, if you look the floor capacity, here it's 500 kilonewton per square meter, but here it's only 120. So you don't bring your pile of stone and go there and poof, the building collapse. And you have to be aware of the capacity of a building, because the beautiful granite stone that you find, you can put them on a pallet and you pile them, but it suddenly becomes very heavy. And then you roll with the transpallet, you go. But actually, if you look the floor capacity, here it's 500 kilonewton per square meter, but here it's only 120. So you don't bring your pile of stone and go there and poof, the building collapse. So you need the full awareness of the skills we have. And that's where I wanted to bring us back to the professionalization of this question and the reason why we are relevant in engaging with this question. And of course, there is the very dramatic question of the pollution in the construction. And here is kind of asbesto, not exactly asbesto, that is highlighted. We were only after the pollution diagnostic are reasonably done. Of course, we never, and you should never try to reclaim materials next to danger like this. The health and your safety is more important than the material and the CO2, whatever. And if it really needs for some specific reason to be done, it needs to be completely carefully done, and it's very expensive. But I wanted to show you, like, here is three of my colleagues, Michael, Martin, and Daniel. They would be like me giving lecture and teaching, but another day we dress like we need to enter the theater and to be able to make the decision and make it happening, that this kind of work and this kind of decision can be made reasonably. And so that's kind of one engagement.